Local people, important issues. CBS 10 WILM's weekly focus on the Lower Cape Fear region. This is Byline Wilmington with your host, Don Ansell.
Good morning, and this is a special holiday Sunday edition of Byline, a very special Byline, actually. Our guest today is a local music icon. He's one of only a handful of commercially working flamenco guitarists in all of North America. His music ranges from classical flamenco guitar to a mix of Spanish, Latin, Middle Eastern, reggae, and even blues. He's produced 8 locally best-selling CDs, and his radio program, Flamenco Cafe, is the longest-running broadcast of its kind in the world. He's known to most of us as simply Paco. William Paco Strickland is with us one-on-one, up close and personal. Paco, thank you so much.
I'm glad to be here.
For coming in.
Even though it is kind of early for me. Great to be here.
Let's start off with the tag Paco and where that came from. How'd you get that?
Well, we're talking long stories made short. It's impossible to do, but it was when I was with public radio, Michael Titterton,
here in Wilmington.
LeBlanc, and they didn't know who I was, but I had this new show. I had about 10 albums by Paco de Lucia or Paco somebody. So they didn't know who I was, so I had all these flamenco albums. They said, let's put it in a box, call it Paco. And it was a shoebox.
The name was born.
Yeah.
I Googled Paco,
it's Frank or something?
Well, it comes from
the diminutive of
Saint Francis of Assisi, who was the father of the Franciscan order, and his name by the order was Pater Communitatis, father of the community.
I'll go with that. I'll sit with that.
They took the first 2 letters, P-A and C-O from the last name, and they came up with Paco, and so that
was very noble.
Fitting for you.
It was more noble than that.
Where'd you grow up?
Mostly in Columbus, Ohio. That's where I got most of my education, and I traveled around the Midwest mostly, and the islands.
What drew you to play music?
Well, the same thing that most young kids, hitting puberty, girls, little boys, want to get close to girls as much as possible.
But some guys would, play sports, and that's how they show their stuff. But you chose music.
My father was an athlete, so that wasn't a big thing for me. But being a musician, it just seemed to be more status amongst my friends and schoolmates.
Did your family encourage that?
Yeah, I would say they encouraged it about 75% until my grades started suffering, and then they would say, "Okay, you're not allowed to practice until you get your grades up," which is actually very, very good.
Way to motivate you.
Yeah, because I said, yeah, okay, no problem.
Where'd you go to school?
High school, it was Eastmore High School, and I think it's still there. And then I did my graduate studies up at Ohio State. Never used any of those degrees.
Well, what'd you study?
The first degree was in social work, and of course, in social work, you really need to get a master's and above to start making any money. And after I went on the road, stayed in rock bands the entire time, and came back and said, this isn't good. So I got a teaching degree, just thinking that I would teach for the rest of my life, which at that time I was about 38, 39. And
you thought it was time to get serious.
Yeah, so I got the teaching degree, and at that time they weren't really hiring that much in school here.
But you were always playing music?
Always, yeah. It was just like breathing. I mean, it was something that I could not do. Mm-hmm. And I found that as I had learned classical and flamenco fingerstyle studies, that was going to be more apt to carry me into 60 and 70 years old.
And so is that, what drew you to play that style? I mean, flamenco guitar is...
Well, a lot of different things, but the fact that it is so difficult. I knew that I wasn't going to have too many competitors around me, even if it's in Columbus, Ohio, or even in Spain. I mean, those guys are really good too, but they still have to practice as much as I do. It's not an inbred thing that you just pop out of the...
But that sounds like an intellectual decision. There had to be some kind of connection to the music.
It could be ancestral. I don't know. You know, it could be a deep...
But I mean, you were drawn to the music.
Well, yeah, I would hear the music. It just sounded exotic, and I don't know if that was the Middle Eastern part of it. There's parts of flamenco that I don't know where it came from. It could not have come from a human being, but it was transferred from a deity down, you know, through the artists, and that's what I thought was pretty cool. Something, it sounded unworldly.
Otherworldly.
Yeah,
Well,
otherworldly.
So was there a point where you actually said, all right, so this is my career?
Well, I'd always been playing music, so
Right.
I just used the same techniques that kept me alive in rock and roll and jazz and country, and I just used the same techniques to get a foothold here in the Cape Fear.
And when did you get here?
About 1990 originally.
Yeah.
A friend of mine actually owned the Murchison House, which is the big mansion on 3rd Street. And I would come down here, even between island gigs, and visit him, stay with him.
So you knew someone here?
Yeah, as Dr. McIntyre, I think is his name. And he owned the Murchison House then. Now it's turned into a museum, you know, but that's where I used to stay when I come. And of course, that's where they shot Blue Velvet and was the young Indiana Jones.
Right.
And I said, oh, this is great, man. This is wonderful. I have my own room here in the Cape Fear. And so I kept coming down on breaks and on summer breaks and learning, getting contacts.
Can you describe what you feel or how you feel when you play?
Sometimes I feel drunk.
Maybe, are you?
No.
Does it gives you a high?
Well, yeah. It's first thing I used to do, very first thing in the morning, I'd get up and get that coffee and put a guitar in my lap, and an hour, 2 hours later, I would start my day, and that would put me into such a gear or mode that I was ready for the day. And if I did not practice like that, you know, something was wrong for the rest of the day. You know, it was just, and sometimes that hour would turn into 4 or 5 hours,
Wow.
and I'd start on a little operetta or something, start on a little project.
Yeah.
But
We're gonna take a break. I want to mention, I'm going to hold it. I know you're not going to be able to see it really up close, but Paco's latest album, he's got like what, 27?
there's a lot of songs.
There's a
on
lot
there.
of music on
it's
here.
It's 3 CDs compiled
one.
onto one. However much, I think there were 2 seconds left on that.
It's called Cape Fear Flamenco, and we'll tell you how to get this. This is a must-have. Make a great after Christmas gift too. We'll be right back.